The hymn, We Thank Thee All Our God, is the main anthem in the World Rejoicing, and it is pure coincidence that it is the opening track of Black Dyke's chart-topping CD, Anthems, Hymns and Gloria for Brass Band. The CD hit the top of the Classic FM chart last year and was a collaboration between the band, the Sheffield Philharmonia Chorus, conducted by Darius Batiwala, and all arranged by Luke Vertolman. The CD celebrates the work of John Rutter, who, as well as celebrating his 75th birthday this year, has a huge following and is renowned for his seminal and religious-based music. We made the short trip down the road to Black Dyke HQ in Queensbury and asked musical director Nick Childs what it's like to have a #1 CD. Nick, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to see us.
Welcome to the home.
Wonderful. Now, you have a friend with you here today.
I do.
You was telling me off camera a little bit about the history, about how this fine beast came into your possession. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, during this pandemic, some of the relatives, or the ancient relatives of John Foster, came to look at what it used to be. And of course, this is the band room, but it used to be John Foster's summer house. And they were quite impressed how it had all been developed since they last came. And they said they had a gift they'd like to send to us. So this came in the form of a present to the band from the grandchildren of the famous John Foster, who invented the Black Dyke Band. And interesting, of course, can you imagine John Foster having his own band, thinking the first thing he's got to do is bring a professional conductor, and the first thing the professional conductor does is make it a brass band, which means that John Foster, who was a French horn player, had to be asked to leave the band.
Well, we're here today to talk to you about your #1 album that came out last year, the Anthems, Hymns and Gloria. What was it like as a brass band to have a #1 album, not only on Classic FM, but also on Amazon and other sellers as well? Must be a very proud moment.
It was a proud moment. It was a little bit strange, wasn't it? Because you couldn't celebrate, because it was in the pandemic, in all these terrible, challenging times for everyone. But we couldn't celebrate. So it was a bit of good news. It was a bit of good news. And so I was sending the news out to the band, and the band were telling me where they were. It was nice because, of course, it was on Naxos. What a lot of people might not realise, the big salesman for Naxos within this country is Gareth. Used to play
Gareth Brindle, yes,
and used to play first baritone at the band. So it's a nice connection to have, and to see it initially, I think, going to the charts. I think he went in on #3 the week before, and then he sent me a little note. He said, "I'm sure it's going to go to #1." I thought, how does he know that? Yeah, and he obviously knew that the sales were going to get so much better. And so, yeah, really exciting. And as I said, a bit of sunlight at the time when we all needed cheering up.
Absolutely. Now, it's an album that's a little bit different in concept. Tell us how it all started, because it's a collaboration between the band, between Luke Vertolman, between Sheffield Philharmonia Chorus and Darius Batiwala, the wonderful organist for the Halle Orchestra as well. Tell us how all this various elements all mixed together.
I've got to say, Luke was the man who was really the idea about this. And it was in October time, and he invited me to a coffee. And when I thought it was going to be a coffee, I thought it was going to be one of these ones that we meet at an airport. But no, he was the conductor at that time for the Carlton Main Frickley Band. And he was staying in Sheffield, and he assumed that where I lived was next door. Of course, it was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't a problem. I went to meet him, and I thought he would have one or two arrangements that he'd want to show me. But he asked me how much I knew about John Rutter, and I explained that I probably knew some of the Christmas music, but very little else. I played a little with the Gloria, and that was with John Price Jones and the Halifax Choral Society, but we only played one movement. And anyway, he came along and he said he had some arrangements. When they arrived, there were 30. And I've got to say, even what we've recorded now, we have in the bank probably 5 or 6 that we'd like to perhaps build on for the future. And I'm sure there will be another album that will be coming out sometime this year.
you stole my next question, because as soon as you said there's 30 arrangements, I thought there has to be a second album coming out. And is this still with the Sheffield Philharmonia, or is all that a secret?
No, it isn't. I think Sheffield are a special group, obviously led by Darius. Darius was an organist. He was a pupil, a student of Philip Wilby's, and a student that Philip is very proud of. He's a fantastic organist, of course, the official organist now for Leeds City Council.
That's right.
His son plays trombone in the Yorkshire Youth Band, so it's a nice connection. But his talents as an organist, accompanist, and now as a conductor is invaluable. When we do our Christmas concerts with Sheffield Philharmonic, they're such a good choir, and they're easy to work with. Their enthusiasm is to be proud of. And so on this occasion, I was happy to hand over the baton for Darius to look after Gloria.
This sort of collaboration with choral societies and Philharmonia choruses, is this going to be a new direction for the band?
If you think our first concert is going to be at the end of June, and it's going to be with the Huddersfield Choral Society. And this is going to be in Huddersfield Town Hall. It's going to be on a cricket pitch. Yes. And if you imagine the band at this point, according to the regulations, we'll be 2 meters apart, and there'll be 30 musicians. But in the choir, there'll be 120. But the enthusiasm for people to come back is still there, because even though it's on a cricket pitch that could normally accommodate perhaps thousands of people, there were 500 tickets that were put out for sale, and they're sold out. They're sold out. And so we've got fingers crossed that everybody behaves enough that we can move on to that. One of the things, Martin, of course, exactly as you're saying, is we've got to create that pathway of confidence where perhaps the people have got to get an idea of what they've been missing. And so we hope during the summer that Black Dyke will do some smaller concerts, but equally to encourage the local bands to come along and share the platform with us. One of them we hope is going to be in Halifax at Peace Hall, where Black Dyke can perhaps do one section, and we'll invite someone like Clifton and Radcliffe to come along and do the second half with us. Hopefully people will listen to the music. We're not trying to gather big audiences, but make sure that let them hear what they've been missing.
Absolutely. Of course, on the 3rd of July, we have our Festival of Brass, which takes the place of the sadly postponed Band of the Year, which is now going to take place on the 30th of October. Black Dyke are going to be headlining at the Victoria Theatre in Halifax, and we hope by then that not only, I think we're safe to say that we're going to have a huge online audience for that event, but I hope that we can get a huge in-house audience at the Victoria Palace as well. I think bands deserve that ovation. Certainly
from Black Dyke's point of view, we're looking forward to it. You know, I was a very big supporter of the actual competition. I'm enjoying playing real music and knowing that the music that you're playing is actually pleasing so many people. Am I allowed to share a secret what our big piece is going to be?
You, of course.
But yeah, John McCabe is obviously one of the greatest composers. And he has that talent, not just to write music that is powerful, but he's got it full of emotion. So when he starts off so quietly, like Cloudcatcher Fells does, then I'm sure it'll create that sort of image of performances that Major Peter Parks, the real godfather of conductors, really created here at Black Dyke.
Yeah, well, all the bands who were competing, we asked them to play a piece which was famous with their glorious past, and Cloudcatcher Fells from Black Dyke, when they won, is probably one of the most iconic contest performances ever, and goes down in folklore.
It does.
And I think people will want to see the festival just to hear Black Dyke play Cloudcatcher, because of course, since John's death, I think it's 3 years ago now, nobody's played it.
Stunning composer. I know exactly that when he was first performed, it was 28 years ago. How do I know? It was within a few days of when my daughter was born, and so it was that particular one. So it was a special one. And I remember, listening to Black Dyke. I think at that time Kevin Crockford was on soprano.
That's right.
A real brilliant performance. And when the horn started off in such a hushed way, special. And for me, I remember it because of Rebecca, of course. But then later it was used in the All England Championships. At that time, the All was it the International All England?
The International All England Masters Championship.
Right.
Something else along the
And
lines.
and so I conducted then the CWS Glasgow band, and they won.
Yes.
They won, and so yeah, special place for me as well. But I've got to say, players in the band are jousting at the moment who's going to be the soloist as well. So that's work in progress.
Well, that's good to hear, because I'm sure, as always, Nick, Black Dyke are going to put on a stunning performance for us, and we're very grateful for your support. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to talk to you today. Best of luck with the band for the rest of the year. Let's hope we're all back with live music and brass band playing in the very near future. Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.